Module 1 video for Lesson 24 on division. We're going to start talking about division using the compact method. Or the standard algorithm. There is no more forgiving division. This is the method in which we will divide. So our little hint on how we divide here, we have first we divide, then we multiply, we subtract, we bring down, and we circle. And I will explain all those when we do an example. But a way to remember the order of divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, circle is to tell yourself, does McDonald's sell burgers and cheeseburgers? And that's how you'll remember the DMSBC. So here's some examples, and if you notice up in the corner, I already have my DMSBC, wrote that out. So now we have 44 divided by 2. So I'm going to set it up that we have our 44. It's under the house being divided by 2. So the 2 is trying to enter into the house. It's being divided by 2. So the first thing I do, it says right here with the D, is I divide. So I ask myself how many times can 2 go into 4? And I know that 2 can go into 4 2 times. So I write the 2 right above the 4. And the next thing it says to do is to multiply. So I'm now going to multiply the 2 times the 2 that's on the outside, and I get 4, and I'm going to put that underneath the 4 that I started with. Now I need to subtract, so I'm going to subtract 4 minus 4, and I get 0. The next thing it says to do is to bring down, so I bring down my next number, and then I circle the numbers that are now at the bottom. That new circle at the bottom is the next thing that I'm going to be dividing. So I'm asking myself how many times can 2, that's this 2 out here, go into the new number I've created now at the bottom of 4. And once I go down here and I have a circle, I'm starting the whole process over again up at the top. So how many times I'm dividing first, right here. Can 2 go into 4? It can go into times. I write that up top. And then I ask myself to multiply, so I'm taking my 2 and multiplying it by my 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Then I need to subtract. So I subtract. Now I need to bring down. There's nothing here to bring down, so I am done. And I know that my final answer, that's way at the top of the paper, up here, which is 22, is my answer. In order to check my work, I take my answer of 22 and I multiply it times my divisor on the outside, which is 2, and I get 44, and it shows me that it matches this, so that my answer is correct. Now I'm going to do another example. Since it's now off the screen, I'm going to remind myself, does McDonald's sell burgers and cheeseburgers? And now I'm going to set up my problem for right here. So I have 86 divided by 2. Remember the 2 goes on the outside. It's trying to get into the house. First thing I have to do is divide. So I ask myself how many times can 2 go into 8? 2 can go into 8 4 times. Next thing on the list is to multiply. So now I multiply these two numbers. 4 times 2 is 8. Put the 8 under the number I've been working with. And then I need to subtract. So I subtract, and I end up with 0. And now it says to bring down. So I bring down, and I circle the numbers that I'm working with so that I can work with them. And once I circle, it tells me to circle right back to the top and start the whole process all over again. So I'm going to divide again and ask myself how many times can this 2 here go into now this 6 that I circled. It can go in 3 times, so I write it up on the top. Now I multiply, so I have the 3 that I just wrote, so I'm only multiplying the number I wrote times the 2 over here on the outside, which is 6. I put it down there. Then it tells me to subtract. When I subtract, I get 0. Bring down. There's nothing to bring down, so I stop. So my answer is 43. So I check the 43 times the 2 on the outside. And I end up with 86, which matches this number, which tells me that I am correct. do some more. We have right up in the corner the divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and circle. So we're going to set ourselves up. This time there's something that's going to be a little different. So we set up our problem, and here's our problem, and we ask ourselves to divide first. How many times can 2 go into 2? It goes in once. 1 times 2, sorry, we divided. And then we now multiply, and 1 times 2 is 2. And now we subtract. And now we bring down. And now we circle. Once I've circled, that tells me I'm going to have to go all the way back to the beginning and start the whole process again. So now I'm asking myself, how many times can 2 go into the 7 that's down here without going over? Because it doesn't go in an exact amount. So this time, the 2 goes into 7 3 times without going over, because 2 times 3 is 6. If I chose 4, it would be 2 times 4, which would be 8, and that's too much. So I put my 3 up here, and now I'm going to multiply. That 3 that I just wrote times the 2 on the outside is 6. I put that underneath. Now I have to subtract. I end up with 1. There's nothing to bring down, so I'm done. I stop. And there's this number floating at the bottom. It's called a remainder. So I add that to the top, and it's remainder 1. I can't leave it floating at the bottom. I need to put it in. So now to check, I do my 13 times 2, which gives me 26. Many of you would say it doesn't match, but this remainder on the outside, I have to add it back in. That gives me 27, and now my numbers match. Do another example of one with a remainder. We have 47 divided by 5, and we're going to write over here, does McDonald's sell burgers and cheeseburgers? So we're going to start by putting our 5 into 47. We're going to divide. First thing we're going to ask, can 5 go into 4? Because that's our division. And the answer goes in 0 times. 0 times 5 is 0. Now we have to subtract. Then we have to bring down, which is the next number here. And then we have to circle. So we're going to circle that 47. And once I circle, it tells me to go all the way back up to the top. Now I'm back up at the top. I ask myself to divide. How many times can the 5 go into the 47 we just circled? It can go in 9 times without going over. So there's my 9. And now we multiply. 9 times 5 is 45. And we subtract. We have 2 down here. We see if there's anything else to bring down. Since there's not, that is my remainder. So now I have 9 remainder 2. So now I'm going to check. 9 times 5 is 45. And then the 45 plus 2 equals the 47. And that is correct. I'm going to do one more of a 2-digit divided by a 1-digit. So we'll do 32 divided by 3. This time I'm not going to use check marks on the side. I'm going to show you how I walk through without checking. How many times does 3 go into 32? First I say how many times does 3 go into 3? It's once. Then I multiply. That's the 1 times 3. Then I subtract 3 minus 3. I bring down my 2. And I circle. And now I'm going to ask myself, I have to go all the way back to the top. How many times can 3 go into 2? This is a little tricky. It can only go in 0 times. So 0 times 3 is 0. And then I subtract. There's nothing to bring down. So that is my remainder. So now I do 10 times 3, which is 30. I add my 30 plus my 2, and I end up with 32. Now I'm going to show you an example of 3-digit divided by 1-digit. And we're still using our divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and circle. So we set it up. 7 goes into 804. I ask myself, how many times can 7 go into 8? 7 goes into 8 one time. Then I multiply 1 times 7, which is 7. Then I subtract. 8 minus 7 is 1. And I bring down just the next number, not 2 numbers. I only bring down 1 number. So now I circle this, and I have my 10. And I ask myself, I go all the way back to the beginning, how many times can 7 go into 10? It can only go in once. 1 times 7 is 7. Then I subtract. 10 minus 7 is 3. There's another number now to bring down. I bring down my next number, which is 34. I ask myself, once I circle it, how many times can 7 go into 34? 7 goes into 34 4 times. 4 times 7 is 28. And when I subtract, that's 6. There's nothing else to bring down, so that is my remainder. So my answer is 114, remainder 6. Next problem I'm going to go over is 162 divided by 8. So I have 162 divided by 8. I have my divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and circle. I ask myself, how many times can 8 go into 1? It's 0. 0 times 8 is 0. I subtract. 1 minus 0 is 1. I bring down the 6, and I circle that. And now I ask myself, how many times can 8 go into 16? 8 can go into 16 2 times. And then I ask myself, 2 times 8 is what? It is 16. I subtract 16 minus 16 is 0. I bring down my next number, and I circle it. Now I'm asking again, how many times can 8 go into 2? 8 can go into 2 0 times. 0 times 8 is 0. 2 minus 0 is 2. So I have 20, remainder 2. So I check it, and I have 20 times 8, which is 160. And 160 plus 2 is 162. This problem on the bottom of 432 divided by 8, you can give that a try on your own. And that is how you use division using the compact method or the standard algorithm.